shine so bold. With every move, the stories unfold. We're cheering on the youth from the start to the win. Giving them the mic, let their voices begin. Interviews and highlights, we got it all. GN Sports Show, where the young stand tall. GN Sports, where the youth lead the way. Champions of tomorrow, making waves today. From ages 5 and up, we help them grow. It's their time to shine on the GN Sports Show. GN Sports Show. GN Sports Show.
Good evening, viewers, and welcome to the 4th episode of Season 3 of the GN Sports Show. My name is Jonathan Thorogood, the Administrative Assistant at GN Sports Global. Along with me, we have a very special co-host with me. He is GNFC Hall of Famer and also a past player from the first ever GNFC team in 2012, Jaden Leandrew. Welcome back and welcome to the GN Sports Show, Jaden.
Thanks for having me. It's good to be back, and I'm excited to be co-host today and going forward in any future episodes.
Excellent. I'll also be joined by GNFC and national team player Jordan Enriquez for the first segment of our show. As usual, we have a packed lineup for our viewers tonight, but also we have a very special guest, or should I say legend in our lineup. We'll be having West Indies cricket legend Sir Andy Roberts. Along we'll be having 2 GNFC under-11 players Malik Booth and Jace Modeste, Vipers Swim Club swimmer Alessandro Bazzoni, Wadadli Aquatic racer swimmers Christopher Walter, Isabel Nicholas, and Coach Nelson Molina. And last but not least, Dr. Rick Millis, the medical doctor at AUA. We'd just like to take a quick commercial break to thank our sponsors. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. Our vision is to become the premier platform for showcasing and empowering young student athletes, providing them with the tools and exposure to excel both in sports and life, while shaping the next generation of confident, media-savvy leaders. The GN Sports Show is dedicated to highlighting the talent and stories of young student athletes across all sports disciplines. We aim to equip them with vital media exposure and public speaking skills, helping them grow into confident individuals both on and off the field. Through engaging interviews, mentorship, and real-world media experiences, we strive to foster personal and professional development that supports their athletic journeys. And welcome back to the GN Sports Show. I have my special co-host with me this evening for this segment, Jordan Enriquez. Hi Jordan, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing great. And also we have with us our 2 GNFC under-11 players, Jace Modeste and Malik Booth. Welcome to the show, you two.
Thank you.
Of course. So we'll just get straight into it. So Jace, what school do you go to?
I attend St. John's Lutheran School.
Okay.
Malik, what about you?
I attend 5 Islands Primary School.
5 Islands. And Jace, do you have a favorite subject?
Yeah.
What's your favorite subject?
I like Word of God, language, social studies, and science.
So you have a couple of favorite subjects, yeah?
Yeah.
What about you, Malik? Do you have any favorite subject or subjects?
Yes, I like maths and language.
Maths and language?
Yeah.
Very good, very good. And you've been playing for Generation X for how long, Jace?
1 year.
1 year, and you like it so far?
Very much.
And what position you play?
Left wing.
Left wing? Okay.
What position do you play, Malik, and how long have you played at Gen X?
Striker and 5 years.
5 years you play with Gen X? Excellent.
Yeah.
Striker.
Yeah.
Top striker, score all the goals?
Yeah.
Good boy, good boy. So who inspired you to get into the sport, Jace?
My mom.
Your mom inspired you?
Yes.
Is your mom here today?
Yeah.
Good boy.
Do you have a role model, Malik? Like, who inspired you to
My-
play football?
My father.
Your father inspired you to play?
Yeah.
And how long you been playing?
5 years.
5 years altogether? Not with Generation Next, it's all together. When did you first start playing football?
Yeah.
5 years?
Yeah.
Okay, so good amount of time. And you, Jace?
I've
How long you been playing?
football for like 5 years.
5 years, 5-6 years. Okay, excellent. So, what about your favorite team? We're getting into now. What's your favorite team? Barcelona.
What about you, Malik? Because my favorite is Man City, so I hope you're a Man City fan too, you know. You can't be my friend and don't be a Man City fan, you know. So what's your favorite team?
Arsenal.
Oh boy.
Don't talk to me, right? Don't talk to me anymore. I don't trust y'all.
And who is your favorite player?
Ronaldo.
Cristiano Ronaldo. So you're a Barca fan, be like Cristiano Ronaldo.
Yeah, it's weird.
It's weird, but it works for you, eh?
Yeah.
What
Okay.
about you, Malik? Ronaldo or Messi?
Messi, but my favorite player is Michael Owen.
Okay,
Michael
yeah,
Owen,
okay, yeah.
Legend. Excellent, excellent. So, what do you want to be when you get older?
I want to be a professional football player, a doctor, a pediatrician, and other things like that.
So you have a couple of avenues that you would like to go down, yeah?
Yeah.
What about you, Malik? Would you like to be a football player too?
Yes, and a firefighter.
Firefight if it doesn't work out. And do you guys have any extra hobbies? Is there anything that you do outside of football?
Yeah, basketball.
Just basketball? You like basketball? Excellent.
What extra sports do you play, like volleyball, tennis, basketball,
Cricket.
cricket?
Yeah.
You like it?
Yeah.
Batsman, bowler? Yeah, both? All rounder.
The next
Yeah.
are Vivian Richards.
Excellent, excellent. Well, Malik and Jace, thank you so much for being on the show with us this evening. We really appreciate it. I know you both play for Generation Next, so I know we'll be seeing you around soon, yeah?
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
We'd like to just take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back.
GN Sports Show.
And welcome back to the GN Sports Show. As you can see, we have our Vipers Swim Club swimmer, Alessandro Bazzoni, here with us this evening. Welcome to the show, Alessandro.
Thank you, thank you.
So we'll just get straight into it, Alessandro. You've had an incredible 2025 season, winning 10 gold medals at the ABSF Nationals and setting multiple age group records. What do you think has been the biggest difference in your training or mindset this year?
Definitely my training. I've been putting in more work. I've been canceling a lot of plans to go swimming, so a lot of discipline in it.
Of course, you have to be disciplined, you know,
Yeah.
more going out and partying with friends and whatnot. You have to focus on the swimming,
Yeah,
right?
focus
Of
on
course, of
Making
course.
sacrifices.
Yeah, a lot
Yes.
of sacrifices.
Good.
So, as a key swimmer for Vipers Swim Club, how has your club and coaching team supported your growth and success over the past few years?
They definitely helped me a lot with confidence, and if I would have a bad meet, they would definitely like bring me up and make me like focus more on the other one. Yeah,
Yes, that's good support.
yeah, very good.
They keep you motivated, yeah?
Yeah, very motivated.
Good stuff, good
That's
stuff.
great.
Who has the stronger mind? Who has the most endurance? Who wants it more? We have Bazzoni separating himself from the two Arubans at the moment. We have Villaman from Aruba with his quick back half. We have Bazzoni. We have Villaman. We have Mansur. And it's all Bazzoni of Antigua, followed closely by Villaman of Aruba and Mansur of Aruba.
So you've been on the podium at every Carifta and OECS championship you've attended since 2022. How do you stay focused and mentally prepare for such consistently high level performances?
I definitely start preparing before, especially when we have a swimming before. So I do the same. I do everything in Antigua, and then I'll do the same thing overseas.
Overseas. So
Yeah.
how long before do you guys prepare for these meets? Do you start training 3 months before, 4 months before?
For a taper, for OECS and Crifta, you definitely start training like in a taper, it's like a month. So you start training and you start dropping from a month.
For a month before. Okay.
Okay, so representing Antigua and Barbuda internationally, including at the CCCAN championships, must be a huge honor. What does wearing your country's colors mean to you?
It means a lot, because I was born in Italy,
Yes.
and then I basically came here when I was like 2. So just representing Antigua means a big,
You've been here for a majority of your life.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's a big honor, yeah, to represent.
big honor.
Good. And you've been representing well, as you see, you're coming
Yeah.
back with your 10 gold medals, right?
Yes.
So, going off of that, with so many titles and records already behind you at such a young age, what are your goals for the future, both in swimming and personally, as you move into the next stage of your career?
For the future, definitely want to make it to the Olympics. Definitely like be the first person from Antigua to go on the podium for the Olympics.
Of course.
So it's a very big thing. And personally, I just want to make some money, you know?
You wanna make it to the big stage,
Yeah,
and you wanna
big
get paid for
stage.
doing it.
Yeah.
Of course. That
That's
is
a
the
great
dream.
goal, man.
Of course. Well, Alessandro, thank you so much for coming on the show with us. Off of seeing what you've done so far, you've done really well. Continue pushing, and I'm sure we will see you here again pretty soon.
Yeah, hopefully. Thank you so much.
Well
Wish you
done.
all the best.
Thank you.
Take care. And with that, we'd just like to take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back.
GN Sports Show.
And we are back with the GN Sports Show. As you can see here on set, we have Wadadli aquatic racers, swimmers Christopher Walter and Isabel Nicholas. Welcome to the show.
Thanks.
So, Christopher, we'll just start off with you. You've already set 2 age group records and represented Antigua and Barbuda at Carifta. What did it feel like to swim for your country on such a big stage?
I would say that it was nervous, but as I got used to seeing how many swimmers were walking around, how tall they were, I was saying, I'm here, I can't stop, I have to continue.
Yep.
Yep. So you moved up to the 11 to 12 age group this year. How has that transition been for you, and what are some goals you've set for yourself in this new category?
So the transition was pretty challenging, I have to say.
I can imagine.
For the goals I've set, I'm trying to win one age group this year in my first year, and I'm trying to aim for at least 1 minute or one minute below on my 100 free.
That's a good goal.
So your favorite stroke, as we see here, is the breaststroke, is that right?
Yes, it is.
So you've had great success in the butterflies and the freestyles as well. How do you train to stay strong across these multiple events?
Well, my program that my coach has set is where I work on my different strokes on each days.
Okay, so I've also heard that you love football and basketball too. How do those sports help you as a swimmer, and how do you make time for everything you enjoy?
So I use those sports in my free time to relax or just to take my time, don't stress. Just a relaxation.
As a hobby?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as you get ready to start secondary school, what are you most excited about, and how do you plan to balance your academics with your growing swimming career?
So basically what I've been doing, I've been trying to keep time management together,
Very
not
important.
trying to waste time. So for secondary school, I'll be trying to keep what I've been doing, but at the same time, getting everything done correctly at my best of my ability.
Of course. And Christopher, we wish you all the best in your future endeavors as well. Keep up the hard work that you're doing, and we wish you all the best into the transition into secondary school as well.
Thanks.
So now we'll move over to Isabel Nicholas. Welcome again to the show, Isabel.
Thank you.
So you've had an amazing year in swimming, breaking records and winning awards. What has been your favorite moment from all the competitions you've been in so far?
I'll have to say that my favorite moment would be finishing my races, knowing that I left it all in the pool, giving my all in every race.
That's what we love to hear.
That's excellent, excellent. And you started swimming in the open sea at the age of 5, is that correct?
Yes.
How did that early experience help shape you as a competitive swimmer today?
Well, it helped to shape me because when I was younger, I was kind of scared of the open water because there's a bunch of sea creatures in there
Yes.
and I don't want to get bitten.
Of course.
So, and on certain days, we would have to swim outside of the buoys, and I was afraid of getting stung by a
Yes.
jellyfish. So that helped me to overcome the fear. So I thought that anything was possible, so I could do whatever I set my mind to. So I got accustomed to swimming around, so that made me get more comfortable.
Excellent.
We've heard you're not only a top swimmer, but you're also active in music, ballet, and gymnastics. How do you manage your time and stay focused on so many different things?
Well, I don't really see it like how I manage it. I just go with the flow.
And just enjoy it as it goes.
Yes.
And that's been working out so far, right?
Yes, it has.
Excellent. So the 200 IM is your favorite event. What do you enjoy most about this race, and how do you prepare for the challenge of swimming all 4 strokes?
So I enjoy that race because I get to put all the days of work that I'm putting in all 4 strokes into that one race. That means the whole thing.
The hard work pays off after
Yes.
all those hard days of training,
Yeah.
getting to go to
it
the
works.
events, yeah? Excellent.
So what advice would you give to other young athletes who are just starting out and want to achieve success like you have?
I would say never limit your ability of swimming or any sport for that matter. Listen to your coach and never ever underestimate your opponent. Because I have to learn that the hard way, unfortunately.
I think that's great advice.
And Isabel, well done again. You seem to be doing really well. Keep up the hard work. Continue doing what you're doing, yeah? And before we leave, do any of you guys want to shout out any of your friends, any family members before we go?
Well, I would have to say thank you to my parents because I wouldn't be in the world without them. And I say thank you to my coach for training me to be what I am today. And to the swimmers for inspiring me to be who I am.
Excellent.
Lovely.
And what about you, Christopher?
I have to say thanks to my parents for bringing me into this sport, bringing me into all the things that I've been doing. Look, my coach giving me the hard sets that are very painful. I can't imagine what's tomorrow.
Well, again, sorry, go ahead.
To all the swimmers that have been pushing me to say never stop, this sport is very, very fun. When you achieve what you want, you can achieve better.
Excellent.
Excellent.
Well, Christopher and Isabel, thank you so much for being on the GN Sports Show with us this evening. You know, continue to push in further to what you guys want to do for your goals, and I'm sure we'll see you on here sometime soon.
Thank you.
Thank you again. And we are here with Wadadli Aquatic Racers coach Nelson Molina. Welcome to the GN Sports Show, Coach Nelson.
Thank you so much.
So with over the 36 years of experience coaching, what would you say has been the biggest challenge in the sport of swimming?
So the biggest challenge that I have in my over 36 years is going to be having this bunch of swimmers who really committed with the sport, especially in those aspects. I always inputting too much, and then it's going to be the discipline,
Yeah, of course.
the commitment, that they put, the dedication, and consistency,
Of course.
right, into the sport.
Key things that you have to look for.
Exactly.
Yes.
So, Wadadli Aquatic Racers Swim Club may not be the largest, but consistently produces top swimmers. What would be your secret to developing champions in a smaller program?
Well, as you say, it's not the biggest one, but we've been producing most of the the faster swim in the island. But the secret for this one, as I said before, is just the commitment, and all this quota that I put in every single swimmer, in terms of determination, desire to get better every single day.
Yes.
Along with the discipline, because discipline for me is the most important one.
Yes.
And also
of course.
listening. Because even though they are youngest girl, but they need to listen, as I said, to learn. Because some of them just come just for fun or pieces or whatever.
Yes, so you got to be dedicated.
They're
and
dedicated,
disciplined.
so dedicated.
Yes.
So in 2024 alone, your swimmers broke 36 national age group records. What does that say about the level of talent and dedication within your club, and how do you maintain that standard year after year?
So not only in our club, but Antigua has so many talented in this sport that we need to save it, because now talk about my club, our club, so all these youngest one coming with very hungry right now because they see the example of all this one that has been used, used to be in our team, and just having such a also fantastic career. And that's why inspire those one to continue working hard. So that's what I also pushing every single day, more dedicated, in every single session that they do. Of course,
perfect.
Every time that he come, so they know that it's really demanding, but at the same time, I take it two backs. One to take care of them, and one to demand them when they have to, because they need to understand to be at that level, they need to work harder.
Of course.
Otherwise, they cannot achieve the goal like that.
Yes. So you've coached at the World Championships, Carifta, CCCAN, and the Paris Olympics. How do you prepare athletes mentally and physically for elite national competition, international competition?
So there's every single stage, we started the preparation, the cycle. So we work again in different aspects of the preparation. And one of the most important one is the psychological.
Yes.
So we have some chatting with the swimmer, to motivate it, So I used to have in every single, I do it in every single session, I ask for the goals for each of them.
Okay,
So for the term, right? So we're working on that in in every single goal that they have. And at the end of the day, I showed everyone. But in every single session, I give them some quote, okay, explaining to them the reason why they need to strengthen their mind. Because that's the most important thing, the mindset.
Yes.
That when they come to swim or do any sport that they do, have to be with the mindset.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So you've introduced outreach programs and emphasized inclusivity at Wadadli aquatic races. Why is community development and access so important to you as a coach?
So the community, or the swimming fraternity in terms of all the family who just join the clubs, or join any club is very important for us, because that's the refuel, of every single club, to try to build the club, more and more. Because as I said, around the island we have athletes that we just observing every time, and they are not really committed with the sport. But at the end of the day, when you see those ones coming in, and you start dedicating more time for them, so you have the relevant result. Yeah. So I know the population is not that big in our island, but we need to save every single swimmer, or every single athlete who want to really be committed with the sport.
Yes, of course.
To grow this sport more and more.
So parental involvement is a big part of your club's culture. How have you encouraged that partnership, and what role do you believe parents play in a swimmer's development?
In this sport, in any other sport, it's very important the triangle in between athlete, coach, and parents.
Yes.
Because they are the link,
Yes.
to support. Because I cannot do anything with the swimmer without parents, because they cannot go by themselves.
Yes.
So parents have to be, first, and they need to follow every single instruction. On the Monday I give it to the swimmer, give it to them too. So we work together.
Yes.
So that's why we still having these relevant results.
Yes.
We work together.
The triangle.
Yeah, the triangle had to be
support.
important. Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. And you've mentored swimmers across nearly every age group. How do you approach coaching differently from an 8-year-old versus, let's say, a 17-year-old athlete?
Okay, so in my program, in our program, I have individualized program. Okay. Even though everyone swim in the same program, but not the same intensive work. So every age group had different, but in terms of intensive work. Even though in the current time right now, the sport, especially our sport, is more intensively in terms of what you need to work on it, because they don't have the necessary frequency or sessions to develop more and more, right? So what I try to do in the short time that we have, or the frequency that they have, in terms of the sessions, Yeah. So I try to get the best of them, because that's why I analyze every single session after we finish. So how the session was, because nothing is going to be absolute. Right. It's going to be relative. So I had to change it when I have to change it, even though I had the program, because it's the only way you can get the result. It's depending how they perform every single day, and work on the training curve.
Exactly. Evaluate them and see what they can work on to get better.
Yeah.
Of course.
So looking ahead, what are your hopes for the future of swimming in Antigua and Barbuda, and what support or changes would help to take the sport to the next level, nationally and regionally?
Well, Antigua, as I said, is on the map right now since we opened in 2014. So our first bronze medal at Carifta level. But we've been working on producing more and more swimmers at different level. So I believe the only thing that we really needed is the support, and they have the proper facility to develop our swimmer more and more, and to take the swimmer to the another level. Because we had just one pool, but I know what we're really looking for. Right, so we are in disadvantage with the rest of the islands, and you see we're still producing.
Yes, of course. So if we had those facilities, it could help a lot.
It's another
more.
story.
Yes. Well, thank you for your time, Coach Molina, and everything you've done for swimmers in Antigua, and we wish you the best going forward, and I'm sure we'll see you going forward.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
And we are back with the GN Sports Show, where we have a very special segment of our show. We have West Indies cricket legend Sir Andy Roberts. Welcome to the show, Sir Andy.
Thanks for inviting me. I hope you enjoy what I have to say.
Of course, and I'm sure we will, and I'm sure the viewers will as well. So, Sir Andy, you were the first Antiguan to play for the West Indies and also one of the pioneers of the West Indies fearsome pace attack in the 1970s. What was it like being the first Antiguan to be called up, and what mindset and preparation went into building such a dominant bowling force?
You know, it was one of the hardest things that happened to me. I don't like flying. First of all. But we were playing in Guyana, and we had to pass through Barbados to come home.
Right.
But the captain did mention to me while in Guyana that he think I may have to stay off in Barbados because Keith Boyce was injured, and they think I had to stay off in Barbados. So went to Barbados, nobody said nothing to me. Reach home, go out early, lime in with the boys. It was about 9 o'clock the night when a car pulled up outside where we were playing dominoes. It was Sylvester Bird. At the time, he was president of the Antigua Cricket Association. He came to me, called me out of the building and said, "You have to go back to Barbados." I said, "What?" But I just passed through Barbados.
Yeah.
And, you know, because in those days it was difficult for people from these territories to play for West Indies.
Right.
So, up 7 o'clock next early morning on the flight to Barbados. None of my teammates knew that I was coming next morning, and we had to play the day after.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cutting it
So
quick,
it wasn't easy. So when I went to Lawrence, he said, "Wait, what are you doing here?" I said, "Boy, the man sent me home and then bring me back." Yeah. So it was, I was nervous. If I tell anybody I was nervous, I would lie.
Yeah.
I was very nervous because we bowled first the morning.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you would have been one of the first bowlers to be out there to start the match?
Yeah.
Wow.
And the very first ball, once I released that first ball, all the butterflies and everything just leave.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, and you know, it was one of the best I bowled in Test cricket.
Wow.
But I only got 1 wicket in the first innings.
Wow.
I got 2 the second innings.
You're getting warm.
Huh?
You're getting warm. Getting comfortable.
Getting warm to go back cold. Because the Test match draw, we went to Guyana. When I reached Guyana, Keith Boyce miraculously get fit again. So captain come to me and tell me, "Boy, you have to go home." So 1 test, bowl well, send home.
Wow.
And I went straight to England to play for Hampshire.
Nice.
Wow.
And they draw the Test match in Guyana, but I was already in England. We went to Trinidad. They get beat in Trinidad. West Indies get beat in Trinidad.
Wow.
But Tony Gregg, who was the England captain, he was England all-round at the time, got 14 wickets in Trinidad. And he said to me, while playing county cricket, if I had played that Test match, they wouldn't have beaten us.
Wow.
But from there on, I had a remarkable season playing for Hampshire in county cricket.
That's lovely.
We got 119 wickets.
Wow.
And almost broke most of the records
Over at Hampshire.
at Hampshire.
How many years were you playing there?
That was my first year.
Okay. Okay, so it was your first year there.
First year I got 114 wickets,
Wow.
17 wickets. But after that, that's where the hard work, started, because I realized you're playing county cricket sometimes 7 days, sometimes 14 straight days.
Wow.
Yeah. So your body must be able to withstand that pressure.
Of course, of course.
So I was never a great runner. But then you had to run. I had to build my legs, I had to build my
Yes.
back, especially because in fast bowling, back is probably the most important muscle you have. Not shoulders. A lot of people believe that
I would think it's
shoulders.
the shoulders,
Eh?
yeah. I would
No.
think shoulders, yeah.
No, not shoulders.
Back.
Your back and legs.
It's nice.
Because if your legs can't take you, shoulders can't go over.
All over,
Yes.
And I strengthen my entire body because fast bowling is a body thing, not a shoulder, leg, back, or anything. Although you hear me talk about legs and backs, but the body must
Full
be
body.
able to withstand that pressure. And I never had a long run up, but I put a lot into my run up. Hence, where what you want to know will come later. Yeah.
So speaking about bowling,
Yeah.
you were known for your ability to bowl two types of bouncers, one slower and one deceptively quicker. How did you develop this technique, and what role did that strategy play in your bowling style?
Well, I didn't develop it until later on in county cricket. And I realized that it doesn't matter how far you run or how fast you run. The final 4 strides is the most important. You have to have that where you put everything into that.
Yes.
So I would run in fast, and I would go through the crease and deliver. Now I would run in, ambling, but the reason why the quicker bouncer is because I don't run straight. I jump. And if you check the Olympic motto, it's strong, faster, stronger, higher. So the last bouncer, I jump higher, where I develop
The strength in
the strength in the shoulders now and go through.
Okay.
So people are looking at your run up,
Yes.
but they're not looking that instead of going there, you're going there.
Yes.
So the higher you jump is more force you come down with.
Okay. I understand. Yes.
So that was your strategy behind
that
it?
was the strategy, and I
Yeah.
didn't tell anybody until I retired from cricket.
You had to keep it a secret.
Keep it a secret. So the last 4 strides and
The
jumping
last
higher.
4 strides, you jump higher.
You
and
get
then
more strength.
You get more strength.
Okay.
So looking back at your career, Sir Andy, what would you say was your most memorable match or series, and why does it stand out to you?
West Indies played very good cricket in Australia from the 1930s,
Okay.
right? 1961 was the most memorable test series for any team that toured Australia. If you check the history of Australian cricket in 1961, they had motorcade from the hotel in Melbourne to the airport, and that was over 40 miles.
Wow.
Yeah, because West Indies played such good cricket that the Australians adore West Indies.
Wow.
1967, 68, 1961, we go to Australia, we play beautiful cricket. 1976, we went to Australia and get our ass cut. Not by the players, but by the umpires.
Wow.
Yeah. And, those things stood out in our mind. Because that was when my first tour to Australia, Viv first tour to Australia, Holden first tour to Australia, the 76 series.
Wow.
We played better cricket than the Australians. So when we were leaving, they beat us 5-1.
Wow.
And they said that Greg Chappell, I think, was the captain at the time, and he said they beat us 5-1. But there was no difference between both teams. But I just told you the difference was the umpires.
Appreciating, of course, yeah.
And we went back in 79, 80. Now, when we went in 76, Australia had a barrage of fast bowlers. Lilly, Thompson, Gilmore, Walker. Yeah. And it put some blows on us. When we went back in 79, 80, we had the fast bowlers.
Yeah.
And we beat them 2-1.
In the series, okay.
In the series. That's the first time West Indies have beaten Australia in Australia.
Wow.
Yeah. Except for Kerry Packer World Series cricket. Yeah.
Did that feel like revenge?
Not Packer.
No.
79, 80 was
Yes.
revenge. In a field, it was revenge.
It was
Yes.
revenge.
It was revenge, yeah.
So you played during a golden era of West Indies cricket. What do you think were the
Not the golden
golden era? Yes, of course. What do you think were the key elements that made the team so successful and feared around the world?
Fast bowling.
Fast bowlers.
Fast bowlers. Yeah.
That was the one key element, just the fast bowlers.
Fast bowlers and Viv Richards. That's the other element.
Yes, Viv Richards.
Yeah. Viv Richards had a glorious season in 79, 80.
This is when you went to Australia.
That's when we went to Australia.
Yes.
79,
Yes.
80.
79, 80, yes.
And the next one was more in 1980. He didn't come to New Zealand. And that was the only test series that we have lost.
Wow.
Yeah. After 76.
Right.
Yeah.
Which was obviously the officiated on
Only
umpires.
one. Yeah, we never lost again. And we started a training method under Dennis Waite, who's an Australian. Kerry Packer brought him in. He was a rugby trainer. And he brought him in, and by coincidence, he drinks a lot. And whenever he drinks, he run out all his alcohol. Run back from, it doesn't matter where the hotel is. He would run from the hotel to the ground. And when we reached, all we did, come off the bus and follow him. So that's where the training regimen started under Dennis Waite, because he was running out his alcohol, and we just said, let me continue with him.
Just follow his trend.
Just follow his trend, yeah. So all of us got fit, fitter than we have ever been before.
I can imagine.
And that's why even this what they're doing today, there's no comparison to what we did when we was, because we started it, The trend of running started by that series, by that Australian.
The Australian god.
And so sad to see that some of the players of the early 90s were the ones who stopped that, because they say they can't run so much. But they didn't realize, what it did for us.
It was a benefit to the team.
Oh yeah.
So you've contributed greatly to cricket development post-retirement. What changes or investments do you think are most critical for nurturing talent in the Caribbean now?
What we don't have. We don't have the desire for personal development. Until our youngsters are prepared
to put in the work, they're not going to get the result. Yes.
Which is understandable. And do you think that it's something as well where we don't have proper resources or infrastructure down here for them to get to that level? Or?
Well, I got to where I was without the infrastructure, because they keep saying, infrastructure. You have to do with what you have.
Yes.
And that is where these players are being spoiled, because people tell them, you need better infrastructure. It doesn't matter how good investment people put in. If you're not prepared to utilize whatever talent and ability you have, the infrastructure is not going to make you do it.
Yeah. You have to have the desire to get to it.
The desire and the discipline.
Yes.
Yeah, of course.
They say that, all you keep saying is personal development. But who reached the top and don't put in the work?
So all the young cricketers out there, as Sir Andy said, you have to work on your personal development.
Personal.
Yeah, of course.
But the opportunity is there.
Yeah.
And don't say that you need money, because there's so much money around the world now in cricket.
Of course. Yes. And a lot of different forms of cricket now too. Back in the day, you did a lot of test matches. Now you have T20s and whatnot.
Look at the amount of West Indians who were playing IPL a few years ago How many you see today?
That's
Yeah.
true.
So because they allow others to grab the opportunity while they just pussyfoot around.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's not good at all.
Very, very disappointing to hear, to be honest. But I see that you're wearing an Antiguan Barbudan Falcons shirt, which is a part of the CPL, right?
part of the CPL.
And do we have any upcoming matches coming up anytime in the future?
CPL starting in August.
In August, okay. So we have some matches down here in August
Yeah.
that we should be looking forward to.
And, so, but I would like
One of the GNs.
Calvin Air Foundation to put some money into Antigua's cricket.
So Andy, again, thank you so much for coming and taking the time out for being on the GN Sports Show here with us this evening, and congratulations again on having such a big legacy here in Antigua and all around the world. So we
Thanks again,
definitely
Sir
have to.
Andy.
No problem.
And we'd like to take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back.
GN Sports Show.
We would like to thank the sponsors of Generation Next, Fruta, Antigua Masonry Products, Kenneth A. Gomez Insurance Agency, Island Photo, and Francis Trading Agency.
GN Sports Show.
And welcome back to the GN Sports Show. As you can see, we have Dr. Rick Millis here with us this evening, where we will be speaking about the good, the bad, and the ugly in bones, right? Is that correct?
Bones, bone health is very important for kids.
Of course.
Very important for kids. In fact, I just heard in your previous segment, you were talking about swimming.
Yes, we were.
People are not going to like to hear what I have to say about swimming and bones. You know, swimming is a great sport, right?
Yeah.
But when you overtrain kids and even adults in swimming, because it's not weight bearing, right? It can have adverse effects on the bones.
Wow.
For example, instability of the skeleton, especially the back, is called scoliosis. You heard of scoliosis?
Yes, yes.
And it turns out there's about double or triple the incidence of scoliosis in competitive swimmers.
Wow.
Especially, you know, when they get into college and they're growing, you know, when they train in high school and they get into college. And so they develop this scoliosis that is related probably, to some extent it may be genetic, but to some extent it's related to too much swimming, overtraining and swimming and not doing enough weight-bearing exercises. So you had a great coach on, and you need to tell these coaches that make sure these kids not only are swimming, but they're also doing weight-bearing exercises.
So they have to
they're
have a
running
balance.
and jumping and gymnastics and all that stuff in addition. So they should, within the same session,
Yes.
they should do it. For example, if kids are training, swimming 6 to 10 sessions a week, that's overtraining, especially if they're not also doing the weight-bearing exercises with it.
Yeah.
You know, and that's, I think, overlooked quite a bit.
So can you give us a couple examples of these weight-bearing exercises so just in case the parents don't know what they are?
Just running and jumping, playing basketball,
there's different
soccer, all
sports and
that stuff, weight-bearing, you know, running on a treadmill. You know, the fact is that when you're in the water, the buoyancy of the water is supporting your weight.
Right.
Yes.
Well, our bones respond to gravity. There are actually crystals in our bones, calcium phosphate crystals. And those calcium phosphate crystals produce an electrical current every time our feet hit the pavement.
Yeah.
And when that electrical activity is gone, then you get the signal that those bones aren't needed, that bone tissue, those crystals are not needed. And so cells take over that start breaking down the bone. You see?
Yeah.
So it's very interesting how that works.
Yeah.
And so bones are, of course, living tissue.
Yeah.
And we think of them as being, you know, hard and maybe not living, but they are living tissue and they respond to these different forces.
Yes.
So, for example, let's say you sit all day. Well, you sit all day, it flattens the bones. It puts compression on the bones. And the compressive forces on the bones stop the bones from forming. They actually inhibit these special cells called osteoblasts. Osteoblasts stimulate the bone. And just like not doing weight-bearing exercises, sitting all day, those pelvic bones that are getting those compressive forces are getting the message that you don't need those crystals, and they take the mineral out of the bones, and the bones get soft.
They get weak.
You see?
Yes.
So the bones are actually remodeling.
Wow.
They're remodeling. So, so the training of kids with just swimming, especially overtraining, is potentially dangerous and can, in later life, affect their skeleton, even when they stop training. You know, because what you're doing is you're laying the groundwork when they're kids for a lifelong health of bones.
Yes.
So many parents are familiar with the phrase growing pains.
Yeah.
Are these real, and how do these relate to sports?
Well, growing pains are real.
Yes.
There's real pains that kids have. And you know, I remember. Do you remember as a child having pain sometimes at night?
I
in your
can't
bones?
remember.
No,
No.
I do. I do. Mine were very severe.
Yeah.
And maybe because I grew very tall.
Yes.
I'm only 6'2" now, but I was 6'5" at one time. Because as you get older, you shrink.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I grew very fast when I was an adolescent, and I was tall, and probably my bones were growing at a faster rate than my tendons. The tendons are those structures that connect the bones to the muscle.
Yes.
And so when the tendons and the bones and the muscles are not all growing at the same rate, they stretch them, and there's pain receptors in there, and they produce these real pains in kids. Now, I remember as a kid, and I'm sure it happens today, that I didn't tell anybody about these pains. Why? Because I wanted to keep playing sports, and I was afraid my mother would say, "Oh no, this is too dangerous," and and I didn't understand them, and nobody talked about them.
Yes.
Right? So I thought there was something abnormal about me, or that somebody would stop me from playing. And so I told nobody. In fact, you might be the first people I ever told. Mom, I didn't tell you. I was afraid. And so so these growing pains are real things. That
And these
the
can be
kids are
things-
feeling. So physicians and parents need to ask the child about them. How are you feeling, and and are you feeling any pain? And when a kid says no, you have to question them further, because guess what? Kids lie.
Yes.
They do.
Parents have to be aware of these things.
Yeah.
But one thing I hear a lot nowadays, especially with some of the younger players in our club, some of them will come and say that they're getting pains in their shins, which obviously we know as shin splints.
Yeah, shin splints.
Which, how does that come about?
Yeah, that's the same thing, where the bones and the tendons are not growing at the same rate. These are micro tears, actually, small little micro tears in the tissue that produce pain. So it's really from overtraining, too much. So the kids need to rest.
Okay.
Kids need to rest. So one of the problems, as I told you, is the bones are constantly remodeling. So when you, let's say, work out on a hard surface a lot, let's say cement. Let's say you're playing basketball and you play on cement, right? That's very hard surface. That's really not very good. Notice in the United States, most basketball is not played on a hard surface. It's played on a surface that has some give to it.
Yes.
Wood surface. Hardwood floor.
Yeah.
But even a hardwood floor can be too hard.
Yeah.
I remember in college, I played for a national championship basketball team at Southern Illinois University in 1967, way before your grandparents were born. And they had just built a brand new 10,000 seat stadium, an arena. It looked like a flying saucer, right? That was new in those days to have something like that. And we opened that arena. And we thought it was just great. And then we would practice on that floor every day for 3 hours. The entire team, not just me, everybody got shin splints.
Oh boy.
And we wondered why. You know why? Because the people that built that arena did not put down the proper floor. Now, probably in those days we really didn't even realize that, but now we realize it. So when you put down a floor in an arena, this floor had a surface underneath the wood, so the wood was very beautiful. In fact, the floor, if you looked at it, was gorgeous, and it was one of the best in the whole country. And everybody thought that was the greatest floor to play on because it looked good. But what they put under the floor didn't have give to it, was too hard. Yep. And we all got shin splints. It's amazing. We became national champions, right, with the shin splints. Imagine what we would have done if we hadn't had the shin splints.
Can you imagine?
Right? So, those are micro tears that come from I told you the bone tissue is living tissue, so it's constantly remodeling itself in response to the forces.
Yeah.
So let's say you have these compressive forces, and the compressive forces are tearing the tissue. Well, the cells that resorb the bone, that break down the bone, are taking over under those conditions. It's too much. It's like overtraining.
Right.
Yes.
And what ends up happening is it breaks down, but then if you do that every day, there's no time for recovery. So tearing the tissue isn't so bad if you give it time to recover, because now the osteoblasts that are making the bone tissue will become more active to replace it, and that would be great. But when you're playing college basketball in the United States, it's a big deal.
Yes.
You see, you're on scholarship, they're paying you to go to school and play basketball 3 hours a day at least.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And you have to practice. And so you really didn't have time to rest and recover properly. And again, I don't think our coaching staff and our sports trainers and everything knew that in those days. That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
So that's the story of shin splints.
With the shin splints.
And so I experienced that too.
So we understand.
And I also didn't tell my mother about that.
So we understand overuse is a big issue, but I understand you also emphasize the interdependence between bone, muscle, fat, and skin during growth.
Yes, very important. So what we have to realize is that we've talked about fat before. So between the layers of skin and muscle and bone, we have fat. And they come from the same precursor cell. You know what a precursor is? Precursor means what happens before yes. Embryologically, when we were embryos, when we were fetuses. There are cells called mesenchymal stem cells. You don't have to remember that. But those mesenchymal stem cells give rise to all the connective tissue, including muscle, fat, and the connective tissue between them, the glue that holds them together, comes from the same cells. So they kind of do the same thing and they interact constantly. So what happens if your fat cells get too big? Do you know your fat cells can get too big? Yeah, you know what brings that on? Yeah, I know, you think that's not true. You know how that comes about in kids? Parents, you're not gonna like this. Overfeeding. When you overfeed an infant, it starts in infancy. When you overfeed an infant, let alone a child, because children, of course, they're active and they eat, and the doctors, if they don't understand this, will tell you, oh, if the kid wants to eat, just let him eat and he'll be fine and he'll work it off, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's true for some kids, but for some kids, by overfeeding them, that means giving them more calories than they need. You're making their fat cells bigger. And you're also making their fat cells increase in number. So they also get bigger and they increase in number. Now, if they increase in number, it's not so bad. It's worse when they increase in size, right? So where do we have fat cells that mostly increase in size? In our bellies. But under our skin, we have fat cells that increase in number. The problem is when this happens chronically, that means over a long period of time, insulin stimulates all this. Remember insulin?
Yeah.
And what's the big stimulator of insulin? Now, I'm testing you because we did go over this several times. Do you remember what stimulates insulin? What's the big disease of insulin?
Carbohydrate.
Yes, very good. The big disease of insulin is diabetes.
Yes.
And what does the average person call diabetes? Sugar.
Sugar.
They say, oh, my sugar is high.
Yeah.
That's right. So eating protein doesn't stimulate insulin. Maybe a little. Eating fat, almost no stimulation of insulin. But when you feed these kids carbohydrate, it's toxic. It stimulates so much insulin that it makes the fat cells bigger, and it also increases the number. Wow. Now, if that continues, you think the fat cells have an unlimited size? No, they have a limited size. Well, the fat starts spilling over outside of the fat cells. Wow. Not only into the blood, but into the liver, so they get liver disease. You heard of fatty liver disease?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, fatty liver disease used to only occur in alcoholics. Now we have something called non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Wow. And we're seeing it in kids for the first time because of this. And that's what also helps lead to diabetes, what we call the type 2 diabetes. It's all associated. It's hard to unlink these things. Okay. So you now have all this fat, building up in the blood, in the liver. What about the muscle? Yes, the fat goes between the muscle fibers and separates the muscle fibers. So now the kids fatigue easily. Wow. They can't build up the strong muscles they need. Right? Mm-hmm. Now we have in the belly fat, it gets between the heart cells if you're old enough, in the elderly people. It gets between the heart cells and you get heart disease. So all of these, like you're saying, the interconnectedness between the fat under your skin, the fat in your belly, and the bones that are around there, they're also weakening the bones. How do they weaken the bones? The fat cells make inflammatory chemicals called inflammatory cytokines. Sometimes we call them pro-inflammatory cytokines. Inflammation. So now you're raising a kid who has low-grade inflammation for the rest of his life. And it's easy for him to gain weight. Even, by the way, you heard of people going up and down in their weight?
Yes.
They go on a diet, they lose weight, their fat cells shrink, but they never go away. So now, when they take in extra calories because they're partying, or they're not thinking about their diets, and they go back, or they're not feeling satiated enough, they don't feel like they're full enough, they eat too much. Now those fat cells
just like open up again.
Yeah. They don't go away. Your fat cells don't go away just because you've gone on a diet and you lost some weight.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
How about that?
Wow.
So is there any way to get rid of these fat cells at all, or would they always be stored in the body?
It's a good question, and I'm not sure about this. I'm going to check it for next time. No. Here's what I'm not sure about. Mm-hmm. There's something called liposuction.
Correct.
Yes.
Body sculpturing.
Yeah.
That a lot of plastic surgeons and cosmetologists do. Mm-hmm. And when people have too much fat in some area and they just want to look better, mm-hmm. you get rid of the fat. And if diet isn't working, they get rid of the fat. Yeah. So I'm pretty sure that when they do the liposuction, you do get rid of the fat cells, right? Yeah. You're not just removing the fat, you're removing the fat cells. But if you don't change your lifestyle, your eating habits, your hormone balance, if you don't do all of that, then they will come back because you have a genetic predisposition to it.
So I have one more question here. How important is calcium in a child's diet for bone health?
Oh, extremely important, very important. Okay, so we didn't talk about that too much. So calcium goes along with vitamin D.
All right.
Now, we have calcium in our diet, And most of the calcium in our diet comes from dairy food, right?
Correct.
Well, are there ethnic differences between the foods that people eat? Of course there are.
Yes.
So let's talk about people of African descent or Caribbean descent. Do they drink a lot of milk? Not so much. You're right. I saw somebody go, woo, 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 woo.
No.
Not so much milk.
No.
But the milk itself, right? The milk itself has a sugar in it called lactose. And there's a higher incidence of lactose intolerance in people of African descent,
Yes.
right? Lactose intolerance. You need an enzyme called lactase. Now, almost all of us, no matter what our ethnicity is, as we age, we lose that enzyme lactase and we become more lactose intolerant. So I'm more lactose intolerant now than I was when I was younger. I can take a little bit of ice cream, but if I take too much ice cream, you don't want to be sitting here. It would get very smelly.
Yes, of
And
course.
that's what happens to your gastrointestinal tract when it gets upset. You know what I'm talking about.
Yes, of course, of course.
So, yes. So the milk is very important. So people who have some ethnic susceptibility to lactose intolerance, or culturally may not have a lot of milk in their diet, then they, of course, are suffering because what's that mineral in the bone that's keeping the bone strong? It's calcium. It's actually calcium and phosphate. Now, most of the calcium in our diet, we do not absorb from our diet unless we have vitamin D. Now, where does vitamin D come from? Well, vitamin D partially comes from our food. So when we take in meats and food that's high in vitamin D, and some plants have a little bit of vitamin D, but not much. But vitamin D is what we call a fat-soluble vitamin. So it's in the fats of animal meat. And when we take that in, we absorb the vitamin D. But it also needs to be activated. When we take it in, it's inactive. Did you know that? No. The vitamin D we get in our diet is inactive. It has to be activated by our kidneys. Yes, by our kidneys. Kidneys have an enzyme. It's called 1-alpha hydroxylase. Look it up. And it activates the vitamin D. So unless the kidneys are active, right, it won't work, right? So before it gets activated by the kidneys, it gets pre-activated by the liver. So it goes first from the sun to the skin to the liver, and finally gets activated in the kidneys. So you see how complicated it is? So if we don't have vitamin D, enough vitamin D, we don't absorb enough calcium from our diet in our intestines. And so, what is the problem with vitamin D? Well, if you're at the equator like we are here, for white folks, it's not so bad because vitamin D gets activated partially by what? Ultraviolet light from the sun. I told you it goes from the skin to the liver to the kidney to be completely activated. So, what about dark-skinned people? Have a lot of melanin. The darker you are, the harder it is to activate the vitamin D. So, people of African descent have more of a problem with keeping that mineral in the bones and higher risk of fractures because of that? The answer is yes. So you have to be concerned about that also with your kids. Yes. So you should be checking your kids' vitamin D levels, especially if you're of African descent and have very dark skin, as well as the calcium level. And by the way, what you read on the bottle, a vitamin D bottle, might not be enough. So if they say that a proper dose of vitamin D is 400 international units, that's too low. According to the recent guidelines, it might be closer to 1,000. Wow. So you might have to take 2 or 3 of those, right? On the other hand, they do absorb some ultraviolet light that activates the vitamin D too.
It's just harder.
Yes, it's just more difficult. So, but again, these are things we can't make rules about for everybody. It has to be done on an individual basis, and that's why you have to, every year, take your children to the physician, but you have to have a physician who's aware of all these things.
Yes,
Not somebody who's going to say, oh, he looks fine. You know?
Yes.
And sign the approval for sports. You need to really, you know,
Do a proper physical.
do a proper physical examination and laboratory work, blood work.
Yeah.
Kids don't like to have blood work done, but they have to sometimes.
Yes, of course.
So you see how complicated it is.
Of course, yeah. So, Dr. Rick, I have a viewer question here from you. This is going back to the beginning of the segment where we were talking about scoliosis, which is obviously the bending or the curving of the spine.
Where are all these questions coming from? Wow, we have a huge listening audience out there, don't we?
We do. Are there any specific exercising that a person can do with scoliosis?
Yes, maintain your flexibility, and maintain your flexibility by symmetrical exercises. So the problem with scoliosis from overtraining in swimming is asymmetric swimming. Now, what do we mean by asymmetric swimming? You know this? That's asymmetric. You know this? The butterfly?
Yeah.
The butterfly stroke, right? That's symmetrical, right? Backstroke, freestyle, that's asymmetric.
Asymmetric.
So when you do this asymmetric, actually you're rotating the spine, right? And especially if you breathe only on one side. Some people don't breathe on both sides, they just breathe on one side.
Yes.
And when you breathe on one side, you're always rotating. Now, it seems like it's minor, but when you think of the hours that these kids spend in the pool,
Training.
they're doing it over and over again.
Yep.
And then they're hitting the wall to go from one side to the other, touch the wall and whatever, with their spine is getting that impact,
Pressure,
Shock, yeah.
that shock. So it has an effect. So basically, the symmetrical swimming, like butterfly, doesn't contribute to it. It's the asymmetric strokes. So again, you got to mix your strokes up when you're training kids, as well as doing the weight-bearing exercises.
So one last question, Dr. Rick.
Yes.
Should parents worry if their kids have low body fat?
Well, yes, the amount of body fat is important. Also, its distribution, as we said.
Yes.
If it's under the skin and in the arms and legs, it's actually healthier fat.
Okay.
That's more of that brown fat I talked about before,
Right.
where it produces heat and burns up calories easily, and it produces a chemical known as adiponectin. And adiponectin maintains the sensitivity of insulin. So it actually is anti-diabetic. Will keep a person from becoming diabetic when you have that kind of fat, right? And so the distribution is important. Now, too little fat is especially important in kids in puberty, mostly girls, because when you don't have enough fat, they don't make enough reproductive hormones, like estrogen for the females and testosterone. It seems to affect the females more than the males. So body fat, parents should pay attention to how much body fat their kids have, and if they, especially girls, have too little body fat, they may not have menstrual cycles.
Wow.
So it may can affect their reproductive behavior, and not just reproductive health, but those hormones like estrogen and testosterone also affect your brain and your ability to think and do schoolwork and things like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's definitely something that parents should pay attention
Right.
to.
And also we talked about too little body fat in some kids makes them more prone to fractures
Yes.
when they fall.
Yes, we did.
Especially if they're in some high impact sports.
Yeah.
So it kind of is a cushion too.
The cushion to it,
Yeah.
So parents definitely have to look out for the body fat in their children.
Yes, too much and too little.
Too little.
It's got to be just like Goldilocks and the Three Bears. It's got to be just right.
Just right. So, Dr. Rick, thank you again, as usual. Eye-opening for us here on the show. A lot for us to think about, a lot for the parents to think about as well, how everything is connected, growing children with the bone, muscles, fat, and skin and whatnot. So, again, Dr. Rick, And to our listeners, don't forget to check your children's shoes, watch for signs of overtraining, and keep fueling them the right way. Until the next time, stay strong and stay informed. And with that, we've come to the end of our 4th episode of Season 3 of the GN Sports Show. We really hope you enjoyed this week's episode.
Please make sure to stay tuned and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Until next time, this is the GN Sports Show.
Interviews, insights, streams taking flight. We show them how to handle the spotlight, preparing them for the journey ahead, building confidence, the words left unsaid. From the grassroots to the national scene, young athletes chasing every dream. In every game there's a story to tell. GN Sports Show, we know them well. GN Sports, where the youth lead the way. Champions of tomorrow making waves today. From ages 5 and up we help them grow. It's their time to shine on the GN Sports Show. Show. Interviews where the youth lead the way. Champions of tomorrow making waves today. From ages 5 and up we help them grow. It's their time to shine on the GN Sports Show. GN Sports